South Korea and Singapore agreed to set up a joint supply chain response system for advanced technology in case of any related disruptions following their leaders' talks in Singapore. Samsung Electronics reported an estimated operating profit worth $6.7 billion in the third quarter, significantly lower than market expectations. Management issued a rare apology for the company's weak performance. North Korea's Kim Jong-un says he has no intention of attacking the South, while at the same time hinting at the possibility of using nuclear weapons under certain conditions. We take a closer look at what could be behind this message. It's October 8th, 8 p.m. in Seoul. This is Newscenter. Thank you for joining us. I'm Yoon Jung-min. We begin with a supply chain partnership forged between South Korea and Singapore. This as President Yoon Suk-yeol is on his state visit to Singapore for talks with the country's Prime Minister Lawrence Wong. Our correspondent Kim Do-yeon is traveling with the president and files this report.
South Korea and Singapore have agreed to strengthen economic cooperation in light of President Yoon Suk-yeol's state visit to the Southeast Asian nation. On Tuesday, Yoon and Prime Minister Lawrence Wong held a summit at the Parliament House agreeing to a number of areas of cooperation, with supply chain response cooperation being the most notable.
이번에 체결된 양국 간 공급망 파트너십 약정을 기초로 바이오, 에너지, 첨단 산업 분야의 공급망 협력을 강화하고 공급망 교란에도 함께 대응하기로 했습니다.
The supply chain partnership arrangement, according to the top office, is a bilateral upgraded version of the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, and it's the first time for both nations to establish such ties. One key factor to this is that if a supply chain disruption is identified, within 5 days there will be an emergency response meeting between the two nations. A few years ago, a global urea water shortage raised concerns about diesel vehicle operations in South Korea, but collaboration with Singapore, home to the world's second largest port, could help resolve such supply issues. As for liquefied natural gas cooperation, this paves the way for the two nations to swap or jointly buy LNG supplies. The two nations are big in LNG exports despite having no natural reserves.
세계 3위의 LNG 수입국인 한국과 글로벌 LNG 교역 허브인 싱가포르 간에 이번에 체결한 LNG 수급 협력 MOU는 에너지의 안정적인 국제 공급망 구축에도 크게 기여할 것입니다.
This state visit comes as next year will be the 50th anniversary since South Korea and Singapore established diplomatic relationship, and to celebrate this, the two leaders agreed to elevate the bilateral relations to a strategic partnership next year.
This will also be a timely milestone for both our countries because 2025 marks the 50th anniversary of the establishment of bilateral ties. The upgrade is not just a change in name, it also means more substantial cooperation, which we discussed during the meeting.
For this next phase, the two nations are set to focus on advanced technology, AI, and startup support. Singapore is one of the world's powerhouses for AI while having strong biomedical industry. South Korea is strong in manufacturing cars and electronics and chips, so according to the top office, the synergy effect for this will be big. Before wrapping up his visit on Wednesday, President Yoon will give a lecture at IC's Yusof Ishak Institute, where he's expected to address his August 15 reunification doctrine. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News, Singapore.
Following a bilateral summit in Singapore, President Yoon visited Hyundai's new Global Innovation Center in the city-state to highlight the two countries' partnership in cutting-edge technologies. Located in the Jurong Innovation District, the Innovation Center is a smart factory that combines artificial intelligence and robotics in a cell-based manufacturing system. Yoon inspected the autonomous vehicle production process guided by Hyundai Chairman Chung Ui-sun, as well as the digital twin section. He emphasized that the combination of AI and robots in autonomous manufacturing is leading the next wave of innovation, noting that conveyor belt system introduced by Ford a century ago and Toyota's Korea's just-in-time production 50 years ago as pivotal innovations in the auto industry. In other news, North Korea's Kim Jong-un has ruled out prospects of a preemptive strike against South Korea, provided the regime is not provoked. Our correspondent Kim Jong-sil spoke to pundits for their thoughts on this latest rhetoric.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un stated during a speech at the Kim Jong-un National Defense University on Monday that Pyongyang frankly has no intention of attacking South Korea, contradicting past rhetoric about liberating the South. However, he warned that any imbalance in strategic power on the Korean peninsula could lead to war, reiterating Pyongyang's commitment to strengthening its nuclear capabilities in response to the ROK-US military alliance, which he described as a nuclear alliance.
It seems there's an underlying intention to try to shift responsibility for the strengthening of North Korea's nuclear capabilities onto South Korea and the United States.
Speaking at a National Assembly session on Tuesday, Unification Minister Kim Yong-ho cautioned that North Korea may declare the two Koreas as two hostile states in its constitutional amendment during its ongoing Supreme People's Assembly. He warned that this could increase military tensions on the peninsula, but gave reassurances that Seoul would respond firmly. Professor Lee Mul-chul of Gyeongnam University said Kim's statements on Monday could be seen as a preview of a potential constitutional revision.
While North Korea has already declared two separate states, the severing of relations with the South continues to accelerate. The message here is clear. If South Korea applies further military pressure, North Korea would not hesitate to use all necessary means, including nuclear weapons, to destroy the South.
As tensions escalate and stakes reach new heights, experts emphasize that the way forward hinges on not only military strength, but also diplomatic approaches. Kim Jong-sil, Arirang News.
Japan's new Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba has officially taken office ahead of another major leadership change coming up in the U.S. This week, we delve into what this means for relations between South Korea and Japan, as well as geopolitics beyond this region. Our foreign affairs correspondent Pei Eun-ji joins me here in the studio. Welcome, Eun-ji.
Thanks for having me.
So some raise hopes that the new leadership in Japan could help resolve historical disputes between Seoul and Tokyo. Well, what's your take on this? Tell us about the possible changes in bilateral relations.
Sure, Jung-min. So Shigeru Ishiba is the country's former defense minister, and he's a veteran lawmaker, but he's also seen as somewhat of a party outsider. The 67-year-old's victory raised hopes in South Korea as he's considered rather dovish when it comes to relations with Seoul. In fact, promising political reform, Ishiba pledged last week that his cabinet will maintain strong partnerships with friendly nations, including South Korea. Let's take a listen.
We would like to further strengthen the network of allies and countries, such as Japan with the United States and South Korea, the Japan-the-US agreement, and Japan, US, and the Philippines.
Ishiba has expressed relatively moderate views on historical issues, unlike the right-wing group of Japanese politicians who dismissed Japan's wartime atrocities in the 20th century. Back in 2017, in an interview with South Korean media, he even said Tokyo should continue to apologize for the wartime sex slavery until Seoul accepts those apologies. He's also expressed somewhat negative views about visiting the Yasukuni Shrine, a symbol of Japan's militarism that often becomes a source of diplomatic tensions with Korea. But experts say that although he'll focus on improving relations with Seoul, a sudden breakthrough in historical disputes is highly unlikely. This is because Ishiba is unlikely to deviate from former Prime Minister Fumio Kishida's policies, given his lack of support within the ruling party and his low approval rating.
Ishiba will likely keep nearly everything from the Kishida administration. Kishida emphasized the relations between Korea and Japan and the importance of the relationship with the United States. Given this, I think Ishiba will continue to maintain the positive momentum to improve relations with Seoul. But as for how he will address historical issues, that might not meet our expectations, so we shouldn't raise our hopes too high.
Eun-ji, eyes are now on a possible first summit between President Yoon and Prime Minister Ishiba this week when they both visit Laos to take part in the ASEAN summit.
That's right. The two leaders have already spoken over the phone last week after Ishiba held his first phone call with U.S. President Joe Biden. They agreed that a united response is needed to counter North Korean threats while promising to meet soon. Now, if they are to meet this week on the sidelines of the ASEAN summit, they'll likely discuss ways to continue improving bilateral relations, especially as the two countries mark the 60th anniversary of normalizing diplomatic relations next year. As an expert in the defense field, he may also seek stronger security cooperation across the region.
Ishiba is someone who has a personal sense of political philosophy. He's someone who will prioritize Japan's national interests. While he may be relatively weaker in domestic or economic policy, he will likely focus on achieving significant accomplishments in the security field, where he is confident.
And speaking of security, Ishiba's proposal of an Asian version of NATO during his campaign surprised many.
That's right, but the idea is widely seen as unrealistic for the time being. In a paper to an American think tank in September, Ishiba had argued for locking Washington into an Asian NATO as a way to deter China. The plan has already been dismissed by a senior U.S. official as hasty, and it's unclear whether it'll find strong support in Southeast Asia. The Ishiba administration also appears to have acknowledged this issue, with the new foreign minister saying it's not part of an immediate plan.
As for the Asian version of NATO you asked about, this is of course an idea for the future, but we still think it should be considered over time and in the medium to long term.
And what can we expect when it comes to Japan's relationship with North Korea?
After taking office, Ishiba said resolving the issue of Japanese citizens abducted by North Korea remains as the most important task. Japan continues to claim that there were at least 17 Japanese citizens abducted by the North in the 1970s and 1980s to work as language teachers for North Korean spies, and that 12 are still in the North. To resolve this issue during his campaign, Ishiba expressed his intention to set up a liaison office between Tokyo and Pyongyang. But the abductees' families have strongly opposed the idea, so it's unclear whether this will actually be established in the near future. For now, what's important for Ishiba is the general election on October 27th, which will decide which party controls Parliament's lower house. He called for snap elections so that it could take place a year early, emphasizing the need for immediate public approval of the new administration. Pundits say that his performance in the upcoming election will determine how long he'll be able to remain as the country's leader.
All right, well, we'll have to see how things play out. Thank you, Eun-ji.
Thank you.
Samsung Electronics reported weaker than expected estimated profit in the third quarter. The tech giant issued a rare apology. Park Go-nu covers this projection and more.
A lower than expected business report card from South Korean tech giant Samsung Electronics. On Tuesday, the company reported an estimated operating profit of 9.1 trillion won, or just over $6.7 billion in the third quarter. That's up by over 274% compared to the same period in 2023, but over 10% down from quarter 2 this year. The tech giant has seen on-quarter rises in operating profits for 6 consecutive times since quarter 1 in 2023, but dropped during the July to September period. Samsung said that's mainly caused by sluggish performance from its device solution division, which normally accounts for over half of the total profit. Lackluster performance for legacy chips used in smartphones and PCs due to lower than expected demand was a major factor. Bonus is set in the third quarter, but to be issued early next year was another reason. Postponement in the supplying of HBM3E chips to AI tech giant Nvidia due to ongoing quality tests was a factor as well. Those sales were up by around 17% compared to last year, making it a record high for any quarter. Chun Young-hyun, head of Samsung Electronics chip business, issued an unprecedented apology message. While apologizing for making people worried about the competitiveness of Samsung, he promised to take the situation as a chance for a rebound. And one expert spoke about possible scenarios for a brighter future.
Once Samsung passes NVIDIA's test, gets its technology verified and supplies its chips, better performance is expected. The company should also continue developing its AI technology and services on its mobile phones.
Also on Tuesday, LG Electronics revealed its operating profits for the third quarter of around $557 million, down nearly 21% on year. Increased logistics costs and marketing costs were the main reasons behind the drop. But as LG recorded its highest ever sales in quarter 3 among any third quarter, it said it would keep up with its growth momentum by diversifying its business portfolio. Park Eun-woo, Arirang News.
Over in the Middle East, despite international calls for a ceasefire, armed confrontations between Israel and Iran-backed militant groups continued on Monday, which marked the one-year anniversary of Hamas's appalling assault against Israel. Choi Soo-hyung has the latest.
Israel and the Lebanese-based militant group Hezbollah continued intense fighting on October 7th local time and the first anniversary of the start of the Gaza conflict. According to a statement by the Israeli Defense Forces, 100 Israeli fighter jets hit 120 Hezbollah targets in southern Lebanon. The IDF added that they aimed at weakening Hezbollah's command and control abilities and securing movement for Israeli ground forces in Lebanon. The targets included Hezbollah's southern front, special forces known as the Radwan forces, missile and rocket launchers, and intelligence units. Hezbollah also claimed that it fired rockets toward areas near Tel Aviv and northern Haifa, specifically targeting an Israeli intelligence base near Tel Aviv. The IDF stated that Hezbollah launched around 190 rockets. Not only Hezbollah, but also Hamas and the Houthis, the so-called Axis of Resistance, launched a series of airstrikes against Israel on Monday. The Houthi rebels fired surface-to-surface missiles from Yemen, temporarily halting first anniversary commemoration events held throughout Israel. Hamas also launched a series of rockets from Khan Yunis in southern Gaza. Israel intercepted the projectiles and no casualties were reported from the attacks. During a cabinet meeting the same day, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu stressed that fighting back against Iran's axis of evil was essential to Israel's security. He said Israel would eliminate Hamas and ensure the remaining hostages are returned safely. U.S. President Joe Biden and the Vice President Kamala Harris also marked the first anniversary of the Hamas attack. Biden stated that Washington remains fully committed to the safety and security of Israel, saying the U.S. supported Israel's right to defend itself. He also mentioned many civilian casualties as it was due to terrorist hiding and operating among innocent people. Former U.S. President Donald Trump continued to criticize the Biden administration, saying that the conflict would not have happened if he had been president. Trump also said he would support Israel striking Iran's nuclear facilities in response to Tehran's missile attacks last week, adding that Israel was entitled to attack. Choi Soo-hyung, Arirang News.
South Korea has decided to provide humanitarian aid worth $500,000 to flood-hit Nepal. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs said Tuesday that it hopes the aid can help the people in the country rebuild their lives as soon as possible and help affected areas recover. According to local media, more than 200 people have died due to floods and landslides caused by recent heavy rainfall in Nepal. Last week, the country witnessed the most intense rain in over half a century. Another Nobel Prize was awarded today to two professors, John Hopfield and Geoffrey Hinton, in the field of physics. The Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences decided to award Hopfield from Princeton University and Hinton from the University of Toronto for foundational discoveries and inventions that enable machine learning with artificial neural networks. It stated that they have used tools from physics to develop methods that are the foundation of today's powerful machine learning. Today, we're bringing you another inspiring story from the Busan International Film Festival, which is well underway in Korea's southeastern port city. While beef serves as a bridge connecting completed films to a global audience, there is another event nurturing those works from the ground up. Our culture correspondent Song Yun has the story.
Behind every great film is a great idea. But for that idea to come to fruition, it needs a stage. One of the biggest stages in Asia is the Asian Contents and Film Market, held as part of the Busan International Film Festival. So this year marks the 19th edition of the Asian Contents and Film Market. So more than 250 companies from 30 countries have gathered here in Busan to discuss potential business opportunities. Over the years, the ACFM has established itself as Asia's premier business platform where creators and investors connect for film and video content planning, production, and licensing. This year, for the very first time, Italy set up its independent pavilion.
They are here to explore opportunity of cooperations with the Korean producers. So this is the new frontier, because besides selling and buying, it's important, as I said, to develop new contents together.
But ACFM is more than just a marketplace for completed works. It also hosts a project market and story market where creators pitch fresh ideas and content IPs to attract investment and co-production deals. This year, 8 films developed through the project market are being officially screened at BIF.
I like to think of our market as an oasis. No matter what path creators are on, this is a place where they can find the information, partners, and direction they need to move forward.
Another look into the future that ACFM offers is how content itself is created and developed. For the first time at an Asian film festival, Microsoft set up a booth demonstrating how its generative AI tool, Copilot, can assist in the production process.
Instead of having to read through a 100-page script, you could quickly grasp the key messages, character details, and important moments in just a minute. You can then ask follow-up questions to get suggestions on the best filming locations or insights into character development.
By providing a space where innovative ideas can meet potential partners, the Asian Contents and Film Market fosters creativity and collaboration in the global film and content industry. 송유진, Arirang News, Busan.
Members of K-pop boy band Stray Kids were on stage to mark the 50th anniversary special of the American Music Awards in LA this past Sunday. Now, this group is the second K-pop act to perform at this music event after BTS. Stray Kids' mini album 8, released on July 19th, is currently the best-selling album in the U.S. thus far this year, and the group is on a world tour until January next year. The American Music Awards is among the 4 major pop music awards, including the Grammy Awards, Billboard Music Awards, and MTV Video Music Awards.
The weather is continuing to cool down now that we've entered autumn. Tomorrow, which is a national holiday for Hangul Day, will have similar weather as today, making it easier to do outdoor activities. However, it will rain on and off on Jeju Island, and the daily temperature range will be large, so you should take a jacket. It has been raining everywhere today. It mostly stops at night, but it will continue in eastern parts of Gangwon-do province until dawn tomorrow. The amount of rain is expected to be up to 40 millimeters in eastern parts of Gangwon-do province and up to 20 on the east coast areas of Gyeongsang-buk-do province. Tomorrow morning, it will start at 14 degrees in Seoul and Gwangju. Daytime temperatures will be at 24 degrees in Seoul, Daejeon, Gwangju, and Busan, very similar to today. For the time being, the whole country is generally clear, and it is expected to be chilly in the morning and mild during the day. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
That is Newscenter for tonight. Thank you for watching. A panel session coming up.